You got to bend it. How about that? I think so. It'll be good enough. If not, I'll get you a handheld like this. Would you prefer that? Got it.
But if it doesn't come through very well, I think we probably should.
Not a problem. I'm here the whole time.
Are you really?
Yes, of course. I wouldn't miss this at all. Welcome, everybody. So we have a, I guess, Hall of Famer for All Saints here, Michelle Woodhouse. And just want to say, I know you have your ministry ended. What year did your ministry end here? 2013. So it's been a little while, 13 years or so. We continue to stand on your shoulders here for all that you have done. Thank you for the stickiness, I like to call it, of building community, the caring nature of it. All of that is well embedded and is a large part. I mean, it's God, of course, but due to you. So thank you so much. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Michelle, what was your title here? Pastoral Care, Senior Ministry? Okay. Overall, just outstanding priest for All Saints was, I think, how she was hired for that. What I love about Michelle is, two things worth mentioning, and you all would say the same thing. One is she's a perpetual student. She's always learning and has set a high bar, given that, and I shared this during announcements, she just received her second PhD in her 90s. So as I mentioned to you before, we're all slackers. But anyway, we're trying. The second is, in conversation with her, there is both practical, concrete knowledge that we get from that conversation and just passionate inspiration. So, and I love that combination. And so thank you for that. So without that, I'm going to let you go ahead and start. So please welcome Michelle Woodhouse.
Well, good morning, All Saints. Here you are. How about the sound? Can you hear me all right? Way back there? If not, you can always move forward, you know. Yeah. All right, some of this is pretty serious, and some of it is just serendipitous. Okay? So we'll just move ahead. Do not cast me off in the time of old age. Do not forsake me when my strength is spent. That's from Psalm 71, verse 9. And this is the plea of our older adults. And running through the Old and New Testaments, there is the mandate to minister to the elderly and to be administered by them. The wellspring is the fifth commandment. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land which the Lord has given you. That's from Exodus. And then in the Gospel of Matthew, truly I tell you, whenever you did this to the least of me, my brothers and sisters, you did it to me. And that is the bedrock of this ministry to the elderly. However, it's important for us to note that caring for the aged is not just a duty given to us by God, but also for our good. Older adults have much to teach us in the ways of wisdom. In Scripture, Moses, David, and Job all taught of the value of older generations. Paul's letters are sprinkled with this same theme. One of my favorites, however, is from Proverbs 16:31, and I quote, "Long life is the reward of the righteous, Gray hair is a glorious crown. These passages, among others, give us a mandate for pastoral care to those who are receptive to it. Not everybody wants it. We have to figure out who they are and who they aren't, but the wonderful thing about these passages, among others, is a mandate for pastoral care to those who are receptive to it. And give attention to older adults in our parish family and even beyond. These passages, among others, give us a mandate for pastoral care to those who are receptive to it and give attention to, oh, I did that. I've got to put my glasses on. I was hoping I wouldn't have to. Of course, the question is where I put them. You ever have that trouble? They're around my neck. Thank you, sir. That was very helpful. All right. It is heartening to me that All Saints has established a pastoral care committee. All right, we're going to explore 3 questions. Who are our older adults? What do they say are their needs? And third, how may we respond to them? There are at least 2 generations. The sociological definition of a generation is 15 years. Applied to our older adults, there are 2 then, 65 through 80 and 81 plus. After 81, Don, we don't keep counting. The implication is some of the needs overlap and some are unique to each generation. However, this is not as clear-cut and crisp as it might sound, because physical infirmities and mental acuity tend to blur the boundaries from one generation to another. Do we know who our older adults are? Some of them come to services of worship and participate in parish activities. Some pledge. Others may just fade away out of sight, out of mind. They all have needs for pastoral care too. They are part of our parish family. The younger of the older adult generation may still come to services, though some at the other end of the spectrum are limited by lack of transportation and other challenges. Some older adults are active and regularly participate in parish activities, volunteer for outreach projects, and enter the intergenerational nature of parish life. When we think about it, parish life is one of the few places left for intergenerational experience. Among our older adults, we find some who are lonely, some who are grieving over a loved one, and those in the younger generation are off on an excursion to the Getty Museum. Many of our older adults joined in work parties for Navajo Land. Dawn, do you see yourself? Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right. On an outreach work party to the Blackfoot Indian Reservation in Idaho, one parishioner, Don Zeal, read the instructions as the other two, Jack Huber and George Scott, just dove right in. I still don't know what they were building. What? Oh, neither did you. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Tom Dietz trying out the new tractor parishioners donated to the Navajo Mission in Utah. The tractor was a pressing need to cultivate the 13-acre field where the Navajos were planting a community garden. The last tractor they had some years ago landed in the river when someone forgot to sate the brake. We ate very well both in Utah and Idaho, thanks to our parishioners that you will perhaps recognize as our chefs, Alice Scott and Eleanor Zeal. The old saying of all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So here we have some of our older adults on an excursion, this time to Lotus Land in the Santa Barbara trolley. I'm not suggesting stereotypes. Each of our older adults is a unique person with particular needs. Granted, there are some commonalities: hearing and seeing loss, mobility loss, and loss of independence where they can no longer are able to drive a car. There's the loss of parents, family members, friends, pets. All can lead to emotional and spiritual issues. And how each person responds to those losses and others is unique for them. For example, we as Episcopalians are on a sacramental journey. The sacraments are important to us, and the loss of receiving them is particularly hard for our homebound older adults. Two years ago, when I received my PhD in geriatric psychology to round out my first doctorate in pastoral care and counseling, my dissertation centered around spirituality and the needs of older adults. I decided I could gather the data best through one-on-one interviews. Conceptually, I chose the work of a prominent psychologist, Abraham Maslow, as the framework for my dissertation because of his central concept of a hierarchy of needs seen in this slide. His model was that when we all move through these various steps, sometimes we slip back to them depending on what life experiences we have. However, the goal is self-actualization, meaning full humanness. In the last years of his life, he added the top tier he called transcendence. Or spiritual needs. And for many adults, particularly in this congregation, we've probably gone through all of the needs up to maybe self-esteem. Sometimes that gets down a little bit, so on. But where we're really at is the self-actualization. And by that, Maslow included opportunities to express altruism, a hunger for becoming more, and a striving toward full being, born out of the love of beauty, truth, goodness, justice, and many more. Maslow elaborated his writing on altruism, transcending self, and becoming, as Channing said in a sermon a few weeks ago, quoting Martin Buber. I'm not saying it right. Wait a minute, I'll have a chance to go out all that. You gotta have a little water. Channing quoted Martin Buber, an thou relationship with all creation. I think that really is what self-actualization really means. All of those kinds of relationships that we have. Maslow wrote, and I quote, "We need something bigger than we are, to be awed by and commit ourselves to," end of quote. Maslow believed also that self-actualization and transcendence are very rare among older adults, and younger people are just beginning to learn life. My kids don't quite agree with that, but that's true. All right. So the second question, what do older adults say are their needs? Adapting to diverse spiritual needs, interconnectedness, inner peace and fulfillment, spiritual diversity, creating supportive communities, and individual spiritual journeys. Just a quick reminder about word clouds seen here. They represent the strength and frequency of a word in the transcripts of the interviews. Red is the most used, bold is second, and third in the smaller type is for some use. Here the generations differ between homebound older adults and those who are still participating actively in the parish's life. The needs of the homebound are different in terms of pastoral care, isolation, loneliness, physical mobility, cognitive impairment, hearing and sight issues, as well as other forms of loss. The active older adult often has experienced loss too, through the death of a spouse, sibling, child, or a beloved pet. They may be able to compensate by involvement in parish life. Their need is for a supportive community where they are seen and heard, and where they feel valued and not neglected. Both generations need the pastoral ministry of the church, particularly when they are confronted by a crisis. Pastoral care is a companion in grief. A companion when confronting issues of old age. Companion in life crises. and offering intercessory prayer for those in need. The interview produced many needs. At the top of the list was interconnectedness. It was defined as, quote, interconnectivity of all humans, where you can go back to your deepest self. It can take many different formats: God-based, beliefs in nature, connections with friends and family, not living on the surface level, end of quote. Another said feeling it is a fundamental and deep level in relationship with God, people, and the world around me, end of quote. Well, now here at All Saints, during my time here, we had a weekly meeting for studying our faith together in the top left. We celebrated birthdays. Sometimes, as you can see, the parishioner didn't like her serving of cake. She wanted another one with the yellow frosting. Incidentally, this lady was celebrating her 96th birthday and told us it was the first birthday cake she'd ever had. And as a result, she got another piece of cake with lots of yellow frosting. Far right, where am I? A far right, an excursion to the Judson Studios to see our new clear-story windows being made. Bill Miners, the donor, gave them in honor of his wife, Nancy. Bill was most interested in seeing the windows that had his dog, Emily, in it. It was a godsend when he saw the artist was just painting Emily into the glass panel as he came by. Now that's true serendipity. Okay, far left, another gathering to go on, this time on a nature cruise to Lake Kachuma. Far right, luncheon after a visit to the Descanso Gardens. Thanks to Don Zeal's. Well, you said we had to go. And so we did. Interconnectedness in many forms. Older adults say they need doing things together to discover and express their spirituality in a group context. Other opportunities where they're able to feel seen and heard and are able to foster connections with other people. You should hear the buzz on the buses. It was wonderful. We had at least 12 extended trips to various parts of the country, down into Mexico, Costa Rica, and Panama, all organized by Don Zeal. The older parishioners liked it because they could no longer travel on their own. We found that small ship trips, I could say it right, were the best way to be together and to keep track of everyone. We had 2 close calls, but everything turned out fine finally. But that's another whole story. The picture walking ashore in Costa Rica is on the far right, far left as far as you're looking. The second is from Costa Rica with the black Jesus carrying his cross. I don't know how well you can see it, but It was very striking when we walked into that church and saw that. At least it was for me. The third is the San Juan Islands in Canada. Then the last one on the top was a totem pole in Vancouver. Parishioners with the Panama Canal in the background. The next one in the middle bottom is that's Copper Canyon in Mexico, where we toured the length of the canyon by train. And last, one parishioner in Kings Canyon, I lost momentarily. And I looked all over for her, and I finally found her outside because she wanted to hug a tree. You see why I wanted to use small boats. All right, on each of these trips, we celebrate the Eucharist. For instance, on the fantail of a ship, in the grove of trees near Jasper National Park. Oh, I'll tell you a quick little story about that. We find inside the only place we could set up as an altar was on top of a log. So I put the cup and the paten down, and as I was going through the Eucharistic prayer, I realized that the wine in the cup was beginning to freeze. You have never heard the Eucharistic prayer said as fast as I did. But everybody stayed. This kind of shared experience was a wonderful way to encourage new friendships and to answer the quest of doing things together. All right, inner peace and fulfillment. For instance, celebrating life, always learning something, one person said. Another said, as I have gotten older, I have found that my spiritual life is more peace of mind. It's kind of like what makes you comfortable. When I get to that place to feel good about something. An inner peace that our parishioners need in order to have the best quality of life. For example, dealing with end-of-life issues and what they need for themselves at that time. Another example, mending broken relationships with their family or friends. This is hard to do, but the reward can be great. One older adult parishioner came to me and wanted my help in healing a broken relationship with her best friend of many years. They agreed to meet with me, and they both said at the same time, "I'm sorry." And with that, everybody burst into laughter. They hugged, and later the parishioner told me, "Now I'm at peace." I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. Spiritual diversity. The people I interviewed recognized spirituality in traditional religions. However, they noted that spirituality can transcend traditional religions and can take different forms based on one's beliefs. One person said, "I think that it's all one. There's one God, and there's just different ways that people have their beliefs and practice them." Far left, Russian Orthodox Church, actually that was in Russia, with many odd icons on which to meditate. Middle, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name. That's a Eucharist in Navajo land. Far right, some find drumming is an entryway to experience their deeper selves. Bottom left, some find deep meaning in the phenomena of nature. Some find it in traditional services of worship. Others find theirs in forest bathing, or ringing bowls, or meditation, or even lymphatic draining. You know what that is? You do? Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. I had to look it up. Or a combination of some of these. Creating supportive communities. This was strongly emphasized in all my interviews. Many older adults express their spirituality in a group context. Opportunities where older adults can be seen and heard, where they're able to foster connections between other older adults. These communities support specific emotional needs, foster a sense of belonging, mutual care, and combat loneliness. One of my interviewees said, "I'm looking for a sense of community." Another said, I need a supportive community where I have a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging. I want to be part of a group and to do things together. So, far left, top. Making Christmas trees for our homebound together. Far right, preparing supplies for the Sunday school and for the elementary school children in New Kiama together. Bottom left, our float in the Fiesta Parade, where some of our children in front on the float. And then we had a replica of the church. And then beyond that, we had a whole bunch of seniors. So it was really a demonstration of the age gap and the fact that the church is in the center. I don't know if people got it, but it was good to do. And many of our older parishioners helped to decorate the float with flowers. The stained glass windows in the church were made of flowers. Well, we had a little bit of a little fuss about that, but we actually did it with bougainvillea. Incidentally, we won a prize. We did. I don't know where it is now, but we did. And then Easter Sunday, 2013, worshiping together. I got this off of the bird's eye view of the service from what Rob Brown does so well for us. Okay, individual spiritual journeys. For the homebound, they need help finding ways to cope with physical and cognitive deficits, isolation, loneliness, and grief of various kinds, and a decreasing quality of life. One person I interviewed said, quote, "I need help and support for healing the hole in my heart." For active older adults, they too are struggling with loss. They have end-of-life concerns. They want to grow in the faith, and some welcome opportunities for helping others, giving them a sense of purpose. One person I interviewed said, quote, "He wants to learn to see the sacred in the ordinary, in my everyday life. Another said, I need a sense of belonging to a group where I can find mutual support and confronting my grief and loss and help others too. The parish services of worship is one journey we as Episcopalians understand as a sacramental journey. Others find fulfillment in nature for the need to commune with God. Some find a spiritual journey by experiencing the richness of both Christian and other religions' spirituality. Others read the Bible to find insight for their journey. Many draw from all of these various kinds of inspiration. Still others are searching for meaning, new horizons. Some of us appropriate all of these ways to enrich our spirituality. That's my kayak in a lake in New Hampshire. That's a real spiritual experience. All right. In summary, older adults need opportunities to explore, appropriate, and experience their faith for their quality of life. They need supporting groups. They need to be heard. They need to be affirmed in the parish setting. They need to be given the opportunities to participate in all levels of parish life and outreach, as they are able, of course. And above all, they need pastoral care, whether they are homebound or experience isolation and loneliness. Perhaps sad that no one from their church family has reached out to them. So the last question is, how do we respond to them? It's not my place to answer the question. All I can do is to share my research and my experience. One of the most fundamental means to reach our homebound is through this prayer on our website. It bounds us together, and it's a godsend for those of us who are physically unable to be with you. So again, do not cast me off in the time of old age. Do not forsake me when my strength is spent. This is our older adult plea. And running through the Old and New Testaments, there is a mandate for pastoral ministry to the elderly and to be administered by them. I want to end with a little vignette. The woman pictured here was 94 when this picture was taken. She was baptized here at All Saints in 1945 when she was 46 years old. She was present when 3 of her 4 children were married here, as well as 2 of her grandchildren. When her mother and her eldest daughter died, they had memorial services here. She pledged for almost 50 years, never missing a beat. However, all during that time, with her own illnesses, the deaths of her mother, her husband, and 1 daughter she never had a pastoral visit. She moved to Valverde 2 years before her own death. She isolated, and the only friend she had was her own loneliness. Until until in the last 18 months of her life, 2 All Saints parishioners, John and Martha Pollitt, who also lived in Valverde, began to visit her regularly. She called them her new friends. Then she made sure nothing got in the way of their visits. She began to smile again. And though she didn't start to participate in many activities, she wouldn't miss her new friends' visits on Tuesday afternoons. I know this because she's my mother. So thank you. Now, are there any questions? You want me to elaborate on anything?
I would like to announce that the first actual event that your new pastoral care committee is going to do is a social hour on May 12th at Valverde.
Yes.
We've invited all the All Saints parishioners who live there and also the ones who are on the wait list to get in. So it's our first endeavor.
And Sally, the other thing is, there are several other Episcopalians who are not churched. And so with your permission, I'd like to invite them.
Absolutely.
Good,
That would
okay.
be fabulous.
Yeah. Lydia Matthews is one of them for you, All Saints first. Okay, yes, sir.
I just want to say thank you to Mother Michelle. You were my first female priest I'd ever experienced when my husband Kevin and I went to Christ the King back in the 80s.
Oh,
It was in one of those photos on the globe. Music.
oh,
So good to see you. Thanks.
and to you. Thank you, thank you. Yes, sir.
Did your spiritual life begin when you were flying an airplane in Alaska?
No, not really, but it helped a lot. No, I don't mean to be, no. Just 1 minute. Let me answer that because that's a very good question. My spiritual life began when, you know Montecito Peak out here? Beside it, there's a little saddle on the eastern side. And I thought, went to the Howard School there, which is now Laguna Blanca. Anyway, I thought that's where God was. And I knew when he was sitting there and when he wasn't. Now I would say when she's sitting there, then we get into that. But anyway, that's where it began. It just kept going because I got a sense of, not of God's calling me to minister, but just of living a deeper life. And that I had experienced when I was a counselor in a refugee camp in France after the Second World War. I've told some of you know this story. Can I take a minute to tell it? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'd taken 5 years of French in school. It didn't help a bit, but anyway, I had to learn the lingo. But I was assigned to a little girl. These were orphans that were not with a hardcore. They couldn't find parents or friends or the village they were from, anyone else. And they assigned me a little girl The only name that she would respond to was RiteSong, which means sea urchin. And the only name that she would respond to was hedgehog. And everywhere she went, she carried a little blanket. And one day, she and I were sitting on the dock of this little lake, and she took her blanket. Oh, by the way, she wouldn't talk. Never said a word. She put her blanket on my lap, and I saw I was kind of striking it and stuff, and I realized that one corner of the blanket was thicker than the rest of it. And then I looked even further, and I realized that it was different stitching. So I asked her if I could open it, and she nodded yes. And I did. And inside I found a little panel embroidered which said, "For Emily, to keep you warm when we cannot. Your grandparents, George and Alice Scott." So reams of paperwork later. Oh, your grandparents in Chester. So I went over to England and went to Chester, and I found them, the Scots, in the parish rolls. So I went and I asked them, I said, is there some kind of a story behind this? And she said, we lost our granddaughter when we were fleeing out, but the Germans were about to take Paris, and everybody was streaming out. And people thought that she must be English. But when the planes came and strafed the routes, it was just chaos. People were all trying to get away and so on. And they lost their daughter, their daughter-in-law, their son, and they couldn't find the little girl. Apparently she was taken and given to different families, and they would move her. And that's why they called her Hedgehog, because they would hide her in the hedges. So anyway, I said, if you were to see her again, how would you know it? And they looked at me, and then Mrs. Scott said, she had a funny little birthmark on the back of her neck. It looked like a butterfly. I knew the mark. And so, I can't tell you how many months it was, because the paperwork was just incredible. But anyway, I took Emily with her blanket to take her back to her grandparents. And we walk up to that little cottage, and the door burst open, and Mr. Scott came out, and he knelt down, and he said, "Oh, Emily, how long I have wanted to be able to hold you." And he began to cry. And Emily bent down and took the edge of her blanket and wiped away the tears. I've since seen her, because I like to go to England every once in a while. And she married a dentist and has 3 or 4 kids. She's probably got 8 grandkids now. But anyway, that's my story. It's kind of back. I like to use that in a sermon. See, Shouldn't have told it here. But anyway, yes.
Michelle, can you tell about the times when you would ride your horse up in Mount Calvary?
Oh, yeah. I lived up on Mimosa Lane from the age of 6 months to 14, 15. And we always had horses. And I would take my horse and I would go up to into the mountains, and I could always go to Mount Calvary's up there because they kept a water trough. Thank you, water trough, and I could take care of my horse. But anyway, yes, I'm sorry, Pot.
Another lady in here mentioned, how important you were being a member here. And I just wanted to mention that I've been a member since I think about 90 or 91. And prior to that, I was at Trinity for quite some time. One morning, we always went to 8 o'clock service, my mother and my aunt. And one Sunday morning, Michelle was there and gave a sermon. My mother and I didn't say a word until we got out into the parking lot. My mother was in her 90s at the time, and she was dead set against women in the priesthood. I mean, did not believe they could possibly handle that job. My mother turned, she stopped me in the parking lot, and she turned to me and she said, I think we need to go to Allstate. And I said, Mom, next Sunday, I promise you, we will. And Michelle was such an incredible strength to us. Not only did we hear sermons that were fabulous, I mean, lift you right out of your seat, but she really took a genuine interest in Mom. And I remember that when Mother turned 100, and was sitting right down in the same pew where I sit now, Michelle came in at one point during the service with roses for Mother, and all the people stood and applauded and wished her a happy birthday and thanked her. My mom was so welcome in this church. There are not words to express the kindness and generosity of Michelle. She visits her all the time. Once she couldn't possibly come to church anymore, that would have been her 102nd year of her life. She passed away at 103. Michelle was there. Michelle helped her.
Thank you, Pat.
She's beyond words.
Thank you. Well, it's time for lunch, isn't it?
I'm off to the Wildling to celebrate their 25th anniversary. So thank you for getting me engaged there. You may know I was engaged for a long time, doing a lot. They survived, they're doing well. And a lot of it's because of you.
Oh, thank you. Hey, did you see that picture of you?
I did. I looked a lot better back then, but it's nice to see it. You should, all the trips we went on, Michelle, Dawn and Ellie. I got so many good memories. I was thinking one of my memories is going to Navajo land and having to work on the little cabins and chinking the mud in because the wind would come in. So I became a master chinker, according to Michelle.
You were.
I wear the title. I'm really happy to see you.
Thank you.
too.
See you too.
Thank you. So Michelle, you don't know me because I'm fairly new at All Saints, but I'm, well, working with Vicki on the lay